Hello everyone. So today we'll be starting with chapter 8, which is confronting marginalization. Confronting margin, what do you mean by confront? Confront matlab face to face. So how do we do about that? In the previous chapter we've read about two different groups and the experiences of inequality and discrimination. Though powerless, such groups have fought, protested, and struggled against being excluded or dominated by others. They have attempted to overcome their situation by adopting a range of strategies in their long history. Religious solace, armed struggle, self-improvement, and education, economic uplift. These appear to be no one way of doing things. In all the cases, the choice of struggle has depended on the circumstances that the marginalized find themselves in. In this chapter, we'll read about some of the ways in which groups and individuals challenge existing inequalities. Adivasis, Dalits, Muslims, women, and other marginal groups argue that that simply by being citizens of a democratic country, they possess equal rights that must be respected. So they possess equal rights just because the reason being that they are part of a democratic country, India, and this should be respected. Many among them look up to Constitution to address their concerns. In this chapter, we will see why the Constitution of India is something that marginalized groups invoke in the course of their struggle. As part of this, we look at how rights are translated into laws to protect groups for continued exploitation, and we will also look at the government's effort to formulate policies. Policies always have played a major role, whether we talk about the SC/ST Act or other methods, which are there, and other policies which are there to promote the access of these groups to development. So let's start here. Invoking fundamental rights. The Constitution, as you've learned, is this chapter of this book, lays down the principles that make a society and polity democratic. They are defined in and through the list of fundamental rights that are an important part of the Constitution. These rights are available to all Indians equally. As far as marginalized are concerned, they have drawn on these rights in the two ways. First, by insisting on their fundamental rights, saying that this is my right and I should have it. They have forced the government to recognize the injustice that is done to them. Second, where then we they have insisted the government to enforce these laws. They have insisted, I'll say yes. I am saying that this is my fundamental right, just like all the other people, and I also tell force as in like keep on insisting that the government that these laws should be enforced. In some instances, the struggle of the marginalized have influenced the government to frame new laws, and this, the struggle of the people who've been marginalized, this leads to the government formulating laws and in keeping them with the spirit of the fundamental right. Not only it is being formulated because it is being insisted by the marginalized people, it is because they also equally have the right to all the facilities, the fundamental rights as other citizens of this country, similar to them. Article 17 of the Constitution states that untouchability, talks about untouchability has been abolished. What this means is that no one can henceforth prevent Dalits from educating themselves, entering temples, using public facilities. It also means that it is wrong to practice and all these facilities, and it also means that it is wrong to practice untouchability. It is wrong, and that if we still practice untouchability, and that this practice won't be tolerated, it won't be tolerated by a democratic country like India. In fact, untouchability is a punishable crime now. So if you practice untouchability, then you might be punished for it. The term Dalit, which means broken, is used deliberately and actively by groups to highlight the centuries of discrimination they have experienced within the caste system. So all these terms, they actually not sometimes there's this thing that why do these terms are still being used. They shouldn't be used and all that. But these terms, they show not just what they've uh, faced or experienced in their life, but it also shows their struggle, how they have come from where they were, the whole struggle, the centuries of discrimination and within their caste system. It highlights and other ways, to show that you've come so far. you know there are other sections in the constitutions that help to strengthen the argument against untouchability. For example, Article 15 of the Constitution notes that no citizens of India shall be discriminated against on the basis of race, religion, caste, sex, or place of birth. You learned a lot about this in your class 7th book on the chapter on inequality. This has been used by Dalits to seek equality where it has been denied to them. Okay, so now we are here. Therefore, Dalits can invoke or draw. It's here on fundamental right or rights in situations where they feel that they have been treated badly by some individual or community, or even by the government. They have drawn the attention of the government of India to the constitution, demanding that the government abide by it and do justice. Justice is for everybody, you, me, everybody, they, them, she, he, and all the people. Likewise, other minority groups have drawn on the fundamental rights section of our constitution. They have particularly drawn upon the rights of freedom of religion and cultural and educational rights. In the case of cultural and education rights, these distinct cultural and religious groups like the Muslims and the Parsis have the right to be the guardians of the content of their culture, as well as the right to make decisions on how best this content is to be preserved. Thus, by granting different forms of cultural rights, the Constitution tries to ensure that cultural justice to such groups. The Constitution does this so that the culture of these groups is not dominated nor wiped out by the culture of the majority. Community, no, here we've again highlighting that no community should be dominated by the other community which is dominant just because of its numbers. And all the different all these different forms of cultural rights are there in the constitution, which ensures that cultural justice is given to everyone. Okay, so nor not dominated nor wiped out. Laws for the marginalized. As you've read, the government make laws to protect its citizens. Yet, this is not the only way in which it takes actions. There are specific laws and policies for the marginalized in a country. There are policies or schemes that emerge through other means, like setting up a committee or by undertaking a survey, etc. The government then makes an effort to promote such policies in order to give opportunities to specific groups. So here is a poem. Let's see. The poem is written by Saurabhya, the wife of a well-known Bhakti poet Chokhamila from 14th century Maharashtra. They belonged to Meher caste, which was at that time considered untouchable. So let's see. A body is unclean, they say. Only the soul is untainted. But the impurity of the body is born within the body. By which ritual does the body become pure? Not a creature has been born except in a bloody womb. This is the glory of God. Defilement exists within. The body is polluted from within. Be sure of it, says the Mahari Choka. So this is on gendering caste through a feminist lens. So this is showing that how it is showing this a caste system through the eyes of feminist lens. And second is we'll sorry not second, here it is, what is athlete means is um Soya Rabai is the questioning the idea of purity and arguing that since every human is born in the same manner, every all of us are born in the womb, and there is nothing that makes one body less or more pure than the other. Everybody is born through the same method, and there is nothing that is that one way is pure than the other way. She is possibly also trying to say that the pollution, a key tool of the caste system to separate or deny people access to spaces, work, knowledge, and dignity, occurs not through the nature of work done, but from within, from your thoughts, values, and beliefs. So she's clearly telling the and differentiating that this whole idea about caste system, pollution, and everything is not through the nature of work done, but it is from within, from our thoughts, our values and beliefs. What we believe is what we actually end up doing. So that's what the emphasis is about, and she's saying that it's not the work of the nature, it is our beliefs, thoughts, and values that has made us believe that who is clean, who's not clean, who's pure, who's not pure. um so, how do we promote social justice as part of our effort to implement the constitution? Both state and central governments create specific, we have specific schemes for implementation in tribal areas or in areas that have high Dalit population. For example, the government provides for free or subsidized hostel for students of Dalit and Adivasi communities so that they can avail. Of education facilities that may not be available in their localities. In addition to providing certain facilities, the government also operates through laws to ensure that concrete steps, um, are taken to end inequality in the system. One such law policy is the reservation policy that today is both significant and highly contentious. Matlab it is contentious means it's highly debatable, so many discussions and how who should be given reservation, until when they should be given. So these are very contentions. Matlab there's very debatable topic. The laws which reserve seats in education and government employment for Dalits and Adivasis are based on an important argument that a society like ours, where for centuries sections of the population have been denied opportunities to learn and to work in order to develop new skills or vocations, or a democratic government needs to step in and assist these sections. Here we are talking that a country, a democratic country, in where they have been there's a society like ours in India, where for centuries people have been denied opportunities, whether it's about learning and work. And in order to develop new skills and vocations, a democratic government needs to come up with certain policies and actions so that every they can be helped out these sections in order to assist them. How does the reservation policy work? Governments across India have their own list of scheduled castes or Dalits and scheduled tribes and backwards and most backward castes. The central government too has its list. Students applying to educational institutions and those applying for posts in government are expected to furnish proof of their caste or tribe status in the form of caste and tribe certificates. Many government and educational institutions also ask for candidates to mention their caste and tribe status. If a particular Dalit caste or a certain tribe is on the government list, then a candidate from that caste or tribe can avail the benefit of reservation. So here we know that, so these are there are the list of the caste and tribes which have to prove that yes, they belong to particular caste and tribes, so that they can avail the benefit of reservation. For admission to colleges, especially to institutions of professional education such as medical colleges, governments define a set of cut-off marks. These means that not all Dalit and tribal candidates can qualify admission, but only those who have done reasonably well and secured marks above the cutoff point. Government also offer special scholarship for these students. In your class 9 political and science textbooks, you will read more about reservation on backward classes. State one reason by whom reservation plays an important role in providing social justice to Dalits and Adivasis. So here's an this part is an explanation for that. Because we people who belong to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, they've been denied for centuries, whether it's the opportunity to learn and work. And if a democratic country like India doesn't come to assist them in certain ways of policies and action, then there's no point. All the we say that India is of is a um, democratic country and all people are equal. If it only doesn't have to be there in the law, or state just be there to be state, it even has to be practiced in letters. So that's what it means. List of schemes. What is the scheme about? How do you think it will help promote scholarship for students, special police stations, special schemes for girls in government schools? See, girls, the case of girls is that, when it comes to gender issue, then it is always the girls who have this it's like a double burden, because one, the sense of security comes in. Then just because they're females, they are not allowed to go to certain places. Restrictions, another, we've discussed this in detail in class 7 textbooks in the gender chapter, and how do we see it from the gender lens, and how we see, the certain cases of discrimination just because the one person is a girl, female, and the other a male. Special police stations are there so that they have better access to facilities of police station, because there has to be sensitivity to certain issues which are very, critical, and they require more attention. So we are here. You may have read Kabir's poems in your language textbooks. Kabir was a 15th century poet and weaver who belonged to the Bhakti tradition. Kabir's poetry spoke about his love for the supreme being, free of ritual and priest. It also expresses his sharp and pointed criticism of those he saw as powerful. Kabir attacked those who attempted to define individuals on the basis of their religious and caste identities. In his view, every person had the ability to reach the highest level of spiritual salvation and deep knowledge within themselves through their own experience. He says that everyone, you, me, all your parents, your uncle, auntie, everybody, the entire world can reach the highest level of spiritual salvation and deep knowledge through their own experience. It is their own experience through which they learn. His poetry brings out the powerful idea of the equality of all human beings and their labor. He writes about valuing the work of the ordinary potter, the weaver, and woman carrying water pot. So, everyone's work has to be valued. If they are not there, who's going to do their part of the work? Labor in this poetry becomes the basis of understanding the entire universe. His direct, courageous challenge inspired many, and even today, Kabir's poetry is snug and appreciated by Dalits, marginalized groups, and those critical of social hierarchies in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Punjab, Madhya Pradesh, Bengal, Bihar, and Gujarat. So, protecting, how do we actually, let's talk about protecting the rights of Dalits and Adivasis. How do we actually go about it? In addition to in addition to policies, our country has also specific laws that guard against the discrimination and exploitation of marginalized community. Let us read the following case study adapted from a real life account, to understand how Dalits use the protection that the law provide. So let's see. The village of Jhakmalgar are gearing up for a big festival once in 5 years. The local deities are honored, and priests from 20 neighboring villages come for this 5-day event. The ceremony begins with a member of the Dalit community washing the feet of all the priests and then bathing in the water used for this. In Jhakmalgarh, the person who performed this task belonged to Rathnam's family. His father and grandfather both performed the same task before him. Though they were never allowed to enter the temple, this ritual was viewed as a great honor bestowed on them and on the special occasion. Now it is Rathnam's turn. Rathnam's was all of 20 years studying engineering. Um, in a nearby college, he refused to perform the ritual. He said that he had no faith in this practice, and his family members were forced to perform this ritual because they were Dalits. Ratnam's refusal angered both the powerful castes in the village and some families from his own community. Though the powerful caste was shocked that such a young boy had the guts to refuse. They believed that it was Ratnam's education which allowed him to imagine that he could start comparing himself with them. So now those from Ratnam's own caste were fearful of angering the powerful. Many worked on their fields as daily laborers. If dominant caste decided to not call them, then what would they earn? How would they survive? They've also declared that the Rath of the local deity, Rath is basically that garland of flowers, the big garland of flowers. It's would strike them if they refused to give in. Ratnams argued that given that not a single Dalit had ever entered the temple, how could the deity be angry with them? How could the deity be angry with them? So he's actually questioning a very legit point that I have never entered the temple. Why will God be angry with me? How are we saying that God is angry me? I have to now never even I have to never even gone inside the temple. The powerful caste decided to teach Ratnam a lesson. His committee was ordered to ostracize मतलब उसको बाहर कर देना, ठीक है, outcast कर देना, and his family, and everyone was told that no one should speak or do any work with them or for them. One night some men entered the part of the village and set his hut on fire. He managed to escape with his mother. Ratnams then went to file a case in the local police station under Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Other Dalit families still did not come out in his support as they were scared that a similar fate might await them if they spoke out. The case was picked up in the local media that led to many journalists visiting the village. Ratnam was written about as a symbol of Dalit action. He became a symbol. The ritual was called off, but his family was forced to move out as they continued to be ostracized by the powerful caste in the village. In your opinion, does the force put on Ratnam to perform the ritual violate his fundamental right? Yes, because everybody has freedom to cultural and educational rights and freedom to religion. Freedom to religion also means that if I'm saying that I don't want to practice this thing, then practice the certain ritual of my religion, then I should be allowed not to practice that. Why do you think Dalit families were afraid of angering the powerful caste? So these poor Dalit who've been working in their fields, they have their source of livelihood from these powerful castes. If they anger them, make them angry, then from where are they going to earn their livelihood? From what are they going to eat, and where are they going to actually work? So that's the whole question, that they were being afraid and not supporting their own men, even after they all have experienced the same discrimination and being exploited. And they were not allowed to enter the temple, though they were made for example, Ratnam's family, they would clean the feet of the all the priest members, and then also they were not allowed to you know um, uh, enter the temple, and after washing the feet of all the priests, then they would bathe in that water. Can you imagine somebody's dirty water is being used to make you clean? So the idea, logic itself, it doesn't actually stands in itself, that how can somebody's dirty water that's been used to wash somebody can be used to clean you? So think about the logic, that does not work. The Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. So this is very important. Even when you grow up, it's very important. Ratnam sought the support of law, filing his complaint under the above act to protest against the domination and violence of the powerful caste in his village. This act was framed in 1989 in response to demands made by Dalits and others that the government must take seriously the ill treatment and humiliation Dalits and tribal face in the everyday sense. While such treatment had persisted For a long time, it had acquired a violent character in the late 1970s and 1980s. During this period, a part of the southern in parts of southern India, a number of assertive Dalit groups came into being and asserted their rights. They came to assert that this is my right and I shall have it. They refused to perform their so-called caste duties and instead of being treated equally. Like Ratnam, they refused to follow practices located in the humiliation and exploitation of Dalits. This resulted in a more powerful caste unleashing violence against them in order to indicate that the government that untouchably was still being practiced and in most hideous manner. Dalits groups demanded new laws that would list various sorts of violence against Dalits, prescribe a stringent punishment, for those who indulge them. So there has to be laws so that people are stopped from doing certain things. So Pandit, look in your heart for knowledge. Tell me where untouchability came from. Since you believe in it, mix red rice, white rice, and air. A body bakes in a body. We eat by touching. We wash by touching. From a touch, the world was born. So why untouched? Asks Kabir. Only she who is free from delusion. In this poem, Kabir is challenging the priest by directly questioning at him. Then where does untouchability comes? He asks the priest to look into the knowledge in his heart and not in the scriptures. Kabir goes on to describe that how every human body is made up of blood, air, and has spent 9 months in the mother's womb, and that everything in the world is created by touching something. Whether it be the pot or human or a painting. So here they're talking about the touch that's in our everyday life, whether this whole world is created by that touch. So here he's emphasizing that look into your heart, priest, and tell me for the knowledge in your heart, that and not in the scriptures. He takes the word untouchable and gives it a very different meaning. He claims that untouchability is the highest state of knowledge. It means not to be touched by narrow limiting ideas. These ideas are very constructed, narrow minded ideas. Therefore, Kabir finally turns the idea of untouchability on its head, from the lowest to the highest state that the human being can achieve. So we can here see how Kabir has questioned the idea of untouchability and given a new different view to it. Likewise, throughout the 1970s and 80s, Adivasi people successfully organized themselves, demanded equal rights, and for the land and resources to be returned to them. They had to face the anger of powerful social groups and were subject to great deal of violence. This is why the act contains a very long list of crimes, some of which are too horrible even to contemplate. The act does not only describe terrible crimes but also lets people know that what dreadful deeds human beings are capable of. We are humans who've discovered everything. This human mind is very, it can be a good and a bad weapon also. We are the same people who've created and made rockets, and we are also the same people who've been part of the Holocaust in Germany. So it is the same human brain that has done the good and the bad deed. Okay, in this sense, laws such as these seek to both punish as well as influence the way that we think and act. The act distinguishes several levels of crimes. Firstly, it lists modes of humiliations that are both physically horrific and re- mentally reprehensible, and seeks to punish those who first force a member of scheduled caste or tribe to drink or eat inedible or obnoxious substances. Okay, then it forcibly removes clothes from a person of a member of a scheduled SC/ST tribe, or parades him in a naked way with painted face or body, or commits any similar act which is derogatory, to the human dignity. Secondly, it lists actions that disposes Dalits and Adivasis of their resources, or force which force them into performing slave labor. Thus the act sets out punish anyone who wrongfully occupies accumulate any land owned by or allotted to a member of his CST tribe and gets the land allotted to him transferred. At another level, the act recognizes that crimes against Dalits and tribal women are of specific kind and therefore seeks to penalize anyone who assaults or uses force on any woman belonging to SC/ST tribe with intent to dishonor her. We're talking about the intent to dishonor here. Can you list two different provisions so you can, obviously these are the provisions you can again, go through them and ponder over it. Look up in the glossary and write in your own words what you understand by term morally reprehensible. So we'll discuss that. This one of the things we've seen is the scourge of manual scavenging. So manual scavenging refers to the practice of removing human and animal waste excreta using brooms, tin plates and baskets, from dry latrines and carrying it out on hand to disposal grounds around some distance. A manual scavenger is a person who does the job of carrying this filth. This job is mainly done by Dalit women and young girls. According to Andhra Pradesh based Safai Karamchari Andolan, an organization working with manual scavengers, there are 13 lakh persons from Dalit. Just look at this figure, 13 lakh persons from Dalit community who continue to be employed in this job in this country and who work in the 96 lakh private and community dry latrines managed by the municipalities. Manual scavengers are exposed to subhuman conditions. No human should go through these of work and face serious health hazards. Working in such with filth and everything without protective gear and etc. can be very harmful to your health. They are constantly exposed to infections that can affect their eyes, skin, respiratory, gastrointestinal system. They get very low wages. They're not even paid at much the risk they give or the work they perform. Those working in the urban municipalities earn rupees 30 to 40 per day, and those working privately are paid even much less. As you've read earlier in this book, the practice of untouchability has been abolished by the Indian Constitution. However, manual scavengers in different parts of the country, the Bhangis in Gujarat, the Pakis in Andhra Pradesh, and the Sikalyards in Tamil Nadu. So we are talking about the Bhangis, we're talking about the Pakis, and the Sikhalyars in Tamil Nadu continue to be considered untouchable, and that is why they're considered to be untouchable. They say you do dirty work, you are untouchable, you're not pure. They often live in certain settlements of the outskirts of the village and denied access to temple public water facilities. Okay. So in 1993, the government passed the Employment of Manual Scavengers and Constitution of Dry Latrines Prohibition Act. This law prohibits the employment of manual scavenging as well as construction of dry latrines. In 2003, the Safai Karamchari Andolan and 13 other organizations and individuals, including seven scavengers, filed in PIL. We've seen the role of public interest litigation. In the Supreme Court, the petitioners complained that manual scavenging still exists and continued in government undertakings like the railways. The petitioners sought enforcement of the fundamental rights. The court observed that the number of manual scavengers in India has increased since the 1993 law. Even after the law is increasing, it directed every department, ministry of the union and to verify the facts, and within 6 months, if manual scavenging was found to exist, then the government department has to actively take a time bound program for the liberation and rehabilitation. If it is there, you have to work on a program to for the liberation and rehabilitation. So you can discuss what do you think about manual scavengings, and you can reread the art fundamental rights we've discussed, and how does it violate. Safai Karamchari Andolan, what did they complain about in the